Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another straight up solo, and in this episode we are going to take a look at Tiletum, and I'm going to show you how it plays from a solo perspective. I will demonstrate probably a full round or so you get a good feel of it, and then we'll talk about it and we'll see if it's something that you want to put into your collection or not. Alright, let's take a look. Okay folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and if you have, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, so I have gone through the first round of this game. It is set up for a a solo game with a normal bot. Now, normal bot means you draw 3 of these random challenge cards, and they affect the way the bot will score or get points or play the game from a setup standpoint and some other things. And the first game I played with easy, and I was able to beat him on easy, so I can at least say that the bot is definitely beatable on easy. We're doing it with normal now. What do you see in front of here? So first, let's talk about the bot. The bot has its own player board, okay, the cardinal bot, as it were, and that acts pretty much like your own player board with some modifications based on the way it does some actions. It also has these cards up here, which is what determines what the bot is going to do in each game. And it's depending on the dice you roll here depends on the card you go to. I think it's kind of an ingenious system. So what happens is that this game has 4 rounds, and in the 4 rounds you've got 4 different fares that are going to happen throughout the board. The first one's always in Tiletum, pardon me, and it will do some kind of scoring. So what you do is you have to fulfill the conditions of the scoring, but you also have to have at least either your merchant cart there or a house built there to qualify for the scoring. Now, the conditions for each of these scorings are random, and the cities are random. So what the bot does is that you find in this deck of his cards the conditions that match whatever he's doing. So for instance, my first one was King and Country, so he had this card out, and that would have helped him try to get stuff that would have helped him to score there. But the other ones, when you could see out here, match what's out there. So that means that in this next round, he's going to hopefully focus, we'll see, more on trying to get this done. But if he doesn't, he fulfills like deeper and deeper actions for later contracts. Sort of like you would do in a game yourself, right? You want to try to do what you're going to score points for. And so I think that's pretty ingenious how it works. Besides that, the bot acts similarly to you. We use this great player aid, and I really appreciate it. They did an awesome job. So on this T game, this player aid gives you just what you need once you've understood the game to run the bot without having to go back and forth in this rulebook. And this rulebook is just as big as it was for some other T games that did not have this. And without this thing would be another head scratcher where you'd be constantly trying to figure out, how do I do the bot? Because the bot's turn is different than yours. So first of all, big praise there, all right? Because for instance, in Tabanusi, this was missing, and without that, it was a constant lookup of things in the rule book, and that was really exhausting, and it didn't need to be that way. It's just, a little player aid. So thank you Board and Dice for doing that. I think that makes a big difference in this one. Now, the other thing about this game is that it is, I guess it was the first game that inspired the mechanism you see in Takanu, which is another T game. But this one apparently was done first, which is kind of interesting, but they published it second. So either way, you'll see some similarities in the game. Basically, what you're trying to do in this game is you are trying to thematically construct these cathedrals around the land, pick up some bonus tiles, set up little merchant spots so you can participate in the fairs, and basically accomplish the goals that are associated with this, also scoring some points and filling out your tableau and doing those kinds of things. Similar to many other Euro games, but this one, does a great job with it, to be honest. The dice mechanism, which I'll show right now as we get going, I think works easier than it does in Takanu, but it's just as fun, and it has a very similar feel, but it's easier to deal with because it's less fiddly. All right, so that's one thing about this game, is it's much less fiddly, I think, than some of the other T games which is a nice bonus. But anyway, so let's start out. We're going to draw 8 dice from a 10 die bag, so 2 of them will not get drawn. All right, here we go. And then we're going to roll these dice, and we're going to assign them based on the numbers here to different categories of actions. Okay, and these categories are going to be the types of turns that we can take. So as you can see, some of these didn't even get one, right? There was no 4s rolled. Well, you can make that happen by spending gold. So in this game, it's on your turn. You can spend gold, basically 2 gold, to move the die 1 position to the left or the right, increasing or decreasing the pip value, and even going from 6 to 1 or 1 to 6. So it does provide you some flexibility to do that. Okay, so what's going to happen is the turn order is set where the T-bot is, or the cardinal bot is first. So the cardinal bot is going to execute its turn. Let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we do is we make sure that his little cardinal token is on the first card. Then we roll these to figure out the difference between the two. There is a 1 difference. So that means he is going to move here and he's going to start trying to deal with this card. And what it says is, take the character action, period. So it's telling you to take that. Well, there happens to be a die here, so he absolutely can do that. If he couldn't do that, you'd move on to the next condition. Take the highest pink dice. If he couldn't do that, you'd actually move to the next card and continue rolling down these cards until you find a condition that can work. And this one always works at the very end, no matter what. So when he does do this, he's going to take the character action. He would select a die in the die order if there were multiple ones, and the priority are shown here. And if you see how this one has a whitish or grayish in a kind of a powder blue configuration there, he would choose the die that he needs more of. So what that means is if he could build cathedrals, he'd choose the one with cathedrals, or sorry, it has to do with his contract, whichever contract he needs more of, not cathedrals. So it would either be if he needs more of this wool, he would take the wool die. If he needs more of the iron, he'd take the iron die. Depend on the contracts that he has. Right now, he doesn't have any. Okay, so he's going to take this, and when you take a die here, you get this many resources depending on the color you choose. So he's going to get 3 of these stone. However, this means one of these effects that makes him harder this time means he gets an extra one. So he's going to take 4 stone. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to put that into his area first. So he's got a lot of stone to build cathedrals with. Then he's going to do that character action. You follow these steps and you just basically resolve the action. So what he's going to do is he's going to repeat as he goes. The first thing, if he had a character off his board to play on here, he'd play it. He doesn't. Then he's going to spend 1 character action. Oh, by the way, you can keep track of the actions using these little action points, which is helpful, especially if you're thinking a lot about what's going on. And you notice that there's 4 here. So even though he took a 3 die, you always get a total number of 7 things between goods and actions. So he's going to get 4 to begin, all right? Also, he's going to deny me this bonus tile because there's a bonus there. So in this case, it doesn't match any of the ones that will give him a bonus, so he just comes out of the game. But sometimes they do, and when they do, based on what are the cards out here, he might score some points. So he has 4 actions. The first action he's going to do is select one of these that he can place. So he's going to select this one first, put it in his side. He's going to pay an action to put this down. Now, because this is down here, he doesn't get the actual resources on them, but he will immediately put his +3 token out. And this is one of the things that's backwards because the setup sets it up differently. Usually it ramps up from 1 to 3. In this case, it ramps down from 3 to 1. So he's going to put his +3 token out here. So anytime he does the contract action, he's going to get 3 more additional actions. And that's because he was able to completely fill up that house. So he has 2 more actions to go. And whenever you draw one of these character tiles, you immediately put another one back in. So he tosses another one. He wants to pair up. So he's going to pair up with this red-haired person. And he's going to take the one that has 2, or I should say more, action icons. So this one's worth 2. So he's going to take this one. He's going to put that down there for his last action. That's his 4 different actions. Now, unlike you, he doesn't pay anything different for going in level 1 or level 2. I have to pay, depending on how high my house goes, more character actions. He doesn't. Okay, so we put this out here, and that's it. Now, he does not get this because he has not yet put a crest token, which is here on deck, waiting to go over here. The only way he can do that is to spend 3 food to put that there. He'll get 5 points if he does that, and if he does that, then he would get this out there, and we would continue on. Okay, so his turn is effectively done, but unfortunately, I screwed that up. I was supposed to flip this over at the very beginning of the turn there. I don't know why that's such a simple but difficult step for me to remember every time. Anyway, so we move that over. What that does is that knocks you down on this king track, which is basically a corruption track. The person who's in the furthest will get this bonus tile at the end of the round, and you'll also score points if you can stay positive. Otherwise, it goes negative. So at the beginning of the round, you always flip that over. Okay, so he's done. Now it's my turn. Now, my turn, I've got a couple things to think about. First of all, I only have one more pillar. Well, let me tell you about what the scoring is. The scoring here is going to be in London. And the way to get this is I'm going to take 5 plus 3 is 8 times the number of crests that I have in my display. Okay? Well, I only have one crest in my display right now, and I don't see a lot of crests out here. There's only a couple other places to get crests right now. This contract action and right here on the board. So this contract action matches the crest I already have, so that's useless to me. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go to this spot right here, the Joker, and that's actually going to be okay. All right, so on my turn, I will take this crest, put it over here. I have to have room in my little warehouse storage area to hold it, otherwise I wouldn't be able to take it. And if you don't have enough room there, you can't discard anything. You have to wait so you can make room. I get one of these iron tokens, and then I'm going to get 6 Joker actions. They have to be, basically the Joker means you can mimic any one of these other actions, but they all have to be taken in a single place. So I've got a couple things I could do. I could start getting contracts, which are kind of an expensive action, but that's necessary because it helps me to get some pillars out here, and it would also help me spend some of these things. However, what I really need to do if I'm going to participate in the scoring at all is get to London. And if I don't start moving towards London, I'm not going to get there at all because I've only got 1 die over there. So I think I'm going to take those 6 actions to move my merchant, to pretend like it's a merchant action, to go there. Now, I also get +1 action over here. I believe I do. And I will take a look at that just to make sure. But because I have this bonus over here, I think when you take the Joker, you still enhance the action. And really, this game wasn't very difficult to learn. There is just a couple of those things that you have to kind of iron out in your brain like that. And I'm just going to quickly look at the Joker to see if that's true. It just says, choose one of the other 5 actions, spend all your action points on the options available. All action points must be performed to perform the same one. You cannot split them. So it doesn't really tell me there. And that's the only thing that's kind of exhausting. You know, it'd be nice if it said it right there, one way or the other. It doesn't. And so, you know, you can look and see about some other things. They give you some information on the other bonuses and such, but it's a little bit, it's not bad, but it's just a little bit disjointed as to where it goes. I'm going to play it like it's just when taking the king's action. So I'm going to play it like it doesn't count for that. So it's only when they play. And the reason being is there are none of these that correspond to the Joker. So we're just going to leave it like it's its own action. It doesn't enhance it. Okay, so I have 6, right? So what I can do is I can move this guy 1, take this tile for 2, move 3, 4, take this tile for 5, and then build a house for 6. So that was actually a really good action because I was able to get some of these tiles, which are really cool, and you can use them at any time, which I will do right now. So I'm going to use this 3 contract action to take 3 contract points worth of actions in the contract area, and I'm going to pick up my first contract. Now, I'm going to probably get this one first. Yeah, so I'm going to get that one first. That lets me change 1 iron and 2 wool into 6 points and do this. But you also can do these exchanges here, and I'll show you why I did that right now. The first time you do an exchange, you can exchange 1 thing for any other 1 thing, but you get a bonus when you do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this food, and I'm going to exchange the food for the wool that I need. But since I get that bonus, that +1, that gives me the 2 wool, and then I can use this right away by spending 3 wool and 1 iron to fulfill this contract, moving this pillar, unlocking it so I can build it later, and getting 6 points. And so that is the kind of fun stuff that you can do in this game. And depending on what you do, depending on what you choose, there's all sorts of stuff that might happen, which I think is really cool. Now, I also could have not done that exchange. I could have done this and just changed those in, but I wanted to do the exchange first to demonstrate it, and secondly, because otherwise I would have wasted my contract point there. So then these slide down at the end of your turn, and then we refill them from the contract stack, which is not that stack, it's in here. Oh, okay, that's a big one, 17. So that was the first of the 3 turns in the action phase. We'll go to the second one here. We're going to flip this over on time this time, and you can see now he goes down 1, I go down 1. He is going to roll the dice. We reset these. It's a distance of 2, so we go 1, 2. It says if the number of pillars that he has built is greater than the number of cathedrals that he has, then you use the highest dark die. Well, he's built 1 and he has 1, so that's not true. So then we go here. If at least 1 unfulfilled contract, well, he doesn't have any unfulfilled contracts, then he would do the architect actions. The architect action has no die on it, so that is not what he's going to do. And then the last one is the contract action. Well, there's a ton of things in the contract action. He's certainly going to do that. Then we look and he says, oh, I want some of that stone. He has tons of stone, but he's going to do it anyway. Well, there is no stone. There's no stone die out there. So then it's going to be, either the gray or the blue. Well, there is no, it's a complete tie because it would also go based on how many he has, but that's not here. So we're just going to have him take the blue. I'm just going to reach for it, take it randomly. So he's going to get 5, plus 1 is 6 iron, the +1 coming from his card. And the action he's going to take is, well, first he's going to take this away. Normally this would just be discarded, but because he has this card right here, he's going to get 3 points on doing that. So that's a nice move for him. 1, 2, 3. He catches up there. Now he's going to have 2 contract actions to spend. So we're going to go to this thing that talks about the contract actions right here. Thankfully, it's nice and easy. And it says purchase a crest if you can. Well, guess what? There's a crest. Picks it up, puts it in his little supply. He doesn't have to do different ones. He can deny you crests. And so it's just me that has to have one different one, but he can just deny it. Take it away. All right, so that's that. And we put the contract back out. And then he doesn't have anything else he could do. If he could build a cathedral, if he had other pillars that he hasn't built, he would do it. If he could fulfill contracts, he would do it. If he could put one of these out here, if he had 3 food, he would do it. He does not have any of those things. So that is it. Yeah. And then the contract doesn't say anything else. Oh, if I had extra ones left over, he would gain the resource he needs the most of, but he spent both of them there. All right, so it goes back to my turn now. So let's see. It would be nice to be able to get some stuff out here and get some food. It'd also be nice to get some more contracts. It'd further be nice to get my architect moving. So I think this one actually is the best for me. And I'll show you why. First of all, I get the 6 food, and I'd really like to get that. So here's 6 food that help me get my crests out, which I need if I'm going to score a lot up here. All right, so that's that. Then I get this tile which says 3 architects. Notice I'm close. If I was full, I wouldn't get it. It would just go away. But first I get to spend 1 action here. So at least that bonus, that pushes me up a little more on the track. Then I can spend these however I want. Well, I'm going to spend this tile right now to do 3 architect action points worth of things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place this pillar down for 1. Then I'm going to move this guy down here for 2. Then I'm going to take a bonus. And I think I'm going to take this easy to fulfill contract here for 3. Okay, so that puts that aside. Now, I have a bunch of food, and I have that contract. I'm a little shy on resources, but I have this right here, don't I? So I can turn these two into wool, and I believe, I'm almost 100% sure, 2 gold can be spent as a wild in this game. Let me just look that up really quickly. Resources meant to be unlimited, blah, 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 blah. Pretty sure you can do 2 gold for a wild. And when you do that, it helps you, yeah, let me see. No, maybe you don't. Maybe that's just the exchange. Could be wrong on that because I don't see anything. You play too many games, so you have too many things to do. I don't see it, so I don't think it can be done that way. Let me pause and find out. Okay, I was right. That was one of your task actions. You can spend 2 gold to be anything. So I'll spend that 2 gold to be a wool. Then I'll spend these 2 to be a wool also. So that's my 3 wool right there, which means I can then get this pillar out ready to build, and I score 1 plus 4 is 5 more points. Okay. So with that in mind then, I also want to spend some food. And I want to put this food out here to help me in other actions. So one of the cool things is if I wanted to spend 6 food, I could build a pillar or a town someplace where it's going to be the fair spot or I'm not going to get to. My architect's probably going to get down there, so I'm going to probably be in pretty good shape for that. But he is not coming up to London. So I'm going to spend the 6 food that I need. Put this crest over here so I can put one of my pillars in London, and at least I'll have a chance to build this cathedral, which I don't have the stuff to do right now, but I'll have a chance to contribute to building it, and that'll help me later on in the game, which I'll be happy about. Okay, I think that about does it for my turn. Yeah. Okay, so last turn in this one, we're both going to go back 1 more. So he's going into the negative points. You don't want to be there. And I'm out in front, so that's good. So what we're going to do here is we are going to have him do his usual. He's going to roll his dice. This time it's a 3, so 1, 2, 3. He's going to go to this one, which is Everlasting Fame. So if he has more houses than pillars, he's going to take the architect action. He does. So he's going to take the architect action. Architect does not have any way for him to do it. So he skips that, then he's going to go to the merchant action. There is a spot for the merchant action, so he's going to deny me this. He's going to take this 2. He's going to need an extra 1. Remember I said because of this. He's going to get 3 wool. With the 3 wool, he won't be able to do anything yet, but once he finally gets some contracts, he'll be able to fulfill those things. Then we're going to go to, he has 5, just so we keep it straight, 5 things he can spend in the merchant, but he doesn't actually spend them. It's a little bit different, so his is weird. First, he builds a house wherever his merchant is standing if he doesn't have one. Well, he has one there. So since he doesn't need to do that, he would then spend a gold to move someplace else. And the thing with this is that he would spend a gold to move per spot, but I believe he will get to whatever spot he wants to go, even if he can't afford it. So he's going to go to the spot that has the most bang for the buck towards this area, and it's probably going to be to come around here, and he's going to have to stop there first, okay? So then he is going to build one of his merchant houses. He doesn't get the bonus on the board or anything. And then, so he's built the house, he's take the bonus if there's one in reach, and the reach is that 5 that we were talking about. So he will then select one of these bonus cards based on the priority that is in this area. And so there's a lot of things to consider here, but basically what it's going to come down to, 5 spaces means anywhere that he can move in 5 spaces. He doesn't even have to move there to do it. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and that one's a second priority. So he's going to take this one away from me right here. That doesn't give him anything, but he just denies me that. Okay, and then finally, he's going to move again to the best available place with the highest numbers or the next fair. Well, the next fair is going to be in London, so he's going to move all the way to London. Now, the irony is with that is it's sort of a suboptimal move because, but it mimics the way the game works for or for the normal player, because he doesn't have to build anything. He doesn't have to be present at all in the fair city when it happens. But his thing clearly says here to the next upcoming fair, which would be London. So that's why he moves over there. Not Strasbourg or any place else. So anyway, you do what it says. Okay, so he is done. He's taken his 3 turns. His turns are done. He doesn't have any way to build anything. He doesn't have any way to fulfill contracts. He's finished. Comes to me now, my last action before we're going to score, and I don't see any possible way I can get any more crests. So I've maximized that. I've also built something there so I can actually score for that. So there's really contracts, and more contracts. Unless I want to spend 1 gold to move this to the architect area. And that might be the most interesting thing yet, because I don't need, in fact, I know it's the most interesting thing I want to do, because I really don't need another contract now, because I don't have anything really to spend on it. And that's 4 points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump these 2 gold. I'm going to take the food one. I don't have any food. And I'm going to move the food one as a 4. Okay, wherever the 4 is, there it is. So 4, it's going to come to my area. I'm going to get this 4 points and score it right away. Then I'm going to get the 4 food. And then I'm going to use the 3 points for the architect. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this for 1, move here for 2, and take this for 3. So I'm happy about that because it gives me a lot of more things I could do on my turn. And I think I'm going to do some of those things right now. So I'm going to spend this 1. And I'm going to move here for 1. Do I want to do that? That's a cheapie. I want to go down here. 1, 2. There's no reason for me to go here because once I'm here, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I want to kind of get down here. It gives me the opportunity to build some more expensive things. So I'm going to go that way. So I move 2 there. Now I'm also going to spend this and get this guy out of Dodge. 2 over here. So let's just back him up. 1, 2. So he's getting off that peninsula or that island. He doesn't need to be there anymore because I already built a house. Okay. That's it. Now the other thing I could, no, I can't. I can't do anything with that. So I think that'll be it. So that is the end of all 3 turns. And then we go to the king phase. And in the king phase, we evaluate who's got points and losing points. I get 2 points. He loses 1. Now, whoever's in the front spot would get this contract, or whatever that is, and they'd be first in the turn order next time. If you're positive, you stay positive. If you're negative, you move back to 0, but he will move to 3 because of the default bot action. Then we take these, and we will, during the cleanup phase, but I usually do it right now just so I don't forget, shuffle them back up, put them out. All right, now we go to the fair phase. This is how we're going to score for that condition. So his condition, he automatically does it, even if he doesn't have anything in London, but he's in London anyway, so he does it anyway. So that's 8, because it's 3 plus 5. These should really be parentheses for those math aficionados out there. It would help it, because the order of operation is important. If it wasn't, it's kind of backwards, but treat this scroll as a parenthesis, okay? So 8 times the number of crests he has out. He only has 1, so he only scores 8 points there. Me, I have 8 times 2, so that would be 16. So I'm delivering a beating so far in this guy. I like it. That is the end of the fair phase. And then when fair ends, basically this flips over, this comes off, and we're done. Then we do a cleanup. And on the cleanup, you'll take all the dice. If there were bonus tiles left here, you'd leave them there. You wouldn't actually take those off. But you take all the dice, you put them back in the bag. Then we refresh the bonus tiles, including the one that's out here. Oh, there's some crests. Look at that. Woo. And then we continue on with the game. So the game is about half over at this point, but you get a pretty good understanding of what's going on. The only thing that I didn't really do is I didn't really spend any stone for he or I to build these cathedrals. He's already built that cathedral. On your turn at any time, you can spend stone to build a cathedral you haven't already built, if you, for this cost, adding up those points, if you haven't already contributed to it. But he's only placed one pillar. The other thing that we do at the end of that time is we discard this. He's no longer going to use this card because that condition is over. He's just going to focus on these. So hopefully that gives you the full feel of what this game's all about. Let me go ahead and tell you what I think about it. Okay, everybody, that's how you play the solo game and a full solo round in Tiletum. I like this game a lot, actually. I think it is just exactly what you'd expect from another T game. It's got the Euro elements, it's got some dice choices, it's got some, max-min stuff. The more resources I get, the less action points I get. The more action points I get, the less resources I get. I think it's cool. I think that the bonus spaces are really cool. You saw me string a lot of those together, which really made for some strong turns. That's the kind of thing I think you got to be thinking about in this game to be able to excel and get everything done that you'd like to do. The only thing that I thought was kind of meh was that king corruption track. It's not very exciting. You constantly are sliding back on it, and so you want to spend some turns kind of moving yourself back up. I guess that's just like, for me, it's okay. So basically it is a fancy way to do a turn order, and for that, I'm okay with it. But it really didn't do too much of me. I always felt like, man, it's just kind of, if I go there to take that turn to boost it up, yeah, it gets me some points, but it just felt like it was a lackluster action compared to everything else. The other actions are really cool. I like that you have to put people in your buildings, and then when you do that, you can get bonuses unlocked, and they unlock more of the houses that you need to place. So in order to get more houses, you have to fill up those buildings, and as you fill them up with people, you can place them out, the houses into your stock to place them. I like how contracts, you have to fulfill contracts in order to get more pillars to put the pillars on the board. I like how you've got the two different markers of the architect and the merchant going in different places. They can get to places soon to get some juicy bonuses that are really important in this game, especially the crests. I like how the crests move and unlock things. Now, at the very end, after you've done everything and you finish the game, you're going to score. Basically, you're going to take the number of pillars you've placed times the number of houses. You get those points. And you also will take the number of completed houses on your player board, and you will multiply that, and that means completed within people and crests. And you'll take a look at how many of those, and if you have at least 3, you'll score 5. If you have 4, you'll score 10. 5, you'll score 20, and all 6 of them, you'll score 30. So that's kind of cool. And finally, you get 1 point for every 4 resources you have left over. I just think there's a lot of fun stuff going on here. The bot is not tough to run, thankfully to this. Very, very happy about that. Now, it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Okay, I'll give it that, and I'm not even going to criticize it because it's good enough. Like you saw, the one thing I had to do is just get some edge cases and maybe a frequently asked question will kind of help with that. But once you kind of figure that part out, it is really not too bad to play. The fact that all those choices on here and tell you what to do means I think it'll be pretty easy if you go away from this game for a while and come back to it to just say, when I take the action, I follow the steps. I will say that these rule books for the actual solo bot, it's still pretty beefy. It's still got a lot of stuff, right? I mean, you still have to read 15 pages of rules or so to learn how to do that. So it's not as easy as anything that you're jumping in, but this is not a game that, just has an obvious denial situation. You want to play against an opponent, and this one I think does a good job of that. But I found myself plowing through the rules in order for me to just kind of watch someone else do it online, then just go to the edge cases, because it just didn't do a fabulous job. It's very thorough, and they have good examples, but it just wasn't sticking with me until I saw it done. And then when I saw it done, it was like, oh, perfect. Now I have these, I can work through it, and that worked really well. So I found this game wasn't too difficult to learn in the first playthrough. You saw I had just 1 or 2 questions even after I've played it before, but the spirit of the game is definitely the weight of the game is definitely medium to medium heavy. I wouldn't say it's light. it fits in there with some of the other T games. But it is, I would say it is easier to play and handle than Takanu. Probably, I guess it is probably one of the easier, more straightforward T games out there. When you think of Megistus, Tabanusi, Takanu, Tawan TCU, Teotihuacan, pardon me. It's probably one of the easiest ones. And if I was going to say which one would you start with, this would be a great one to start with. If you haven't had any of those games and you just want to try out one of those mechanics where you're using dice to do multiple things, but not necessarily rolling it for chance, this is a great entry point into it. So I would say it's definitely not a simple game, not a light game, but it's a little bit lower than all those other ones. Those other ones are good too, don't get me wrong, but they have a lot more interlocking mechanisms that are harder to grasp, at least until you play it a couple times. So I really like it. This is definitely going to stay in my collection. I'm looking forward to trying to beat the bot at different levels of difficulty. I think the way they did those setup cards was cool because it also adds more complexity to the bot and more ways that you have to deal with what it's doing. So it's not just like, okay, well, you add 10 more points. No, it changes the way it plays and changes the way things happen. So you can play, even on the hard level, there's more cards than there are the number you need. And so your bot will change on how it will score points each time without being a major headache because those cards are fairly self-explanatory and they describe them at the back of the rule book pretty easily. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, everybody. If this game looks like it's fun for you, I'm glad I helped. If this game looks like it is not going to be fun for you, I'm glad I helped. All right, take it easy, everybody. Have a good one.